Most individuals are unaware of the enormous changes taking place in the realm of digital assets. It is said that a significant financial power struggle is occurring behind the scenes, outside of the news, one that has the potential to drastically alter cryptocurrency markets and give one organization control over the future of digital liquidity. Several on-chain researchers and blockchain forensic specialists claim that J.P. Morgan Chase, the biggest bank in the U.S., has been amassing a huge amount of XRP tokens, roughly 20 billion, yes, 20 billion XRP, were covertly obtained and stored in cold storage via a complex network of institutional-grade custody solutions and anonymous wallets. If the claims are accurate, J.P. Morgan now controls almost 20% of the circulating quantity of XRP, which gives them hazardous leverage in a market that was meant to be decentralized. Let's take a step back. J.P. Morgan has so openly criticized cryptocurrency for years. Jamie Dimon, the company's CEO, expressed extreme skepticism about blockchain technologies and referred to Bitcoin as a scam. However, J.P. Morgan was developing in the background while the general population was being warned to stay away. Thus, they developed JPM Coin, essentially a private blockchain solution intended for institutional client settlement. Then, in order to give their affluent clientele a taste of digital assets, they began to expose them to cryptocurrency. In order to protect those assets, they also formed custody partnerships. Evidence now indicates that they have gone one step farther, subtly cornering the XRP market to control future liquidity rails. It all began with some odd movements on the chain. Massive XRP transfers. I'm referring to hundreds of millions of tokens at a time were being made to new wallets. And these wallets, well, they had no identifying markers and no past history. However, trends emerged as experts tried to connect the dots. The development of wallets was, oddly gathered in one place. The behavior of the transactions was almost the same. The geographical time zones also intriguingly pointed to a Western institutional background. Then the actual discovery was made. As it turns out, a J.P. Morgan subsidiary is connected to the institutional-grade custodian that handled the cold storage addresses where XRP was sent by several of these wallets. Retail trade was not what this was. There were more than a few whales involved in the coin movement. This was a concerted attempt to discreetly and honestly absorb XRP without setting off alarms. Let's think about why now. Why would a large ownership in XRP be desired by a legacy bank like J.P. Morgan? Well, control is the answer. There is more to XRP than just another cryptocurrency. Was intended to serve as a bridging asset for international payments. It is incredibly quick, inexpensive, and scalable. Additionally, it already has international ties with banks and financial organizations. XRP is one of the most important components of the future infrastructure if the global financial system moves toward tokenized value transfer, which is really now occurring. J.P. Morgan may be positioning itself as a digital gatekeeper by securing 20 billion XRP, regulating liquidity, managing supplies, and even levying access fees. In fact, major players in traditional markets have been using this identical tactic for years. For instance, private equity firms purchase residences in order to increase rents and create a housing scarcity. The same is true for commodity traders. When supplies are limited, they hoard oil. It all comes down to taking advantage of the market. By holding up a sizable chunk of the whole supply, J.P. Morgan may be using the exact same strategy with XRP. In essence, they are creating fake scarcity. As we have seen in the past, this approach is intended to dominate the market. And, the effect is quite explosive when you combine increased demand, particularly from central banks and fintech companies, with scarcity. Economically speaking, prices must increase to keep up with the pressure. Furthermore, studies indicate that a supply shortage of this size for XRP would cause the price to rise to $20. or even higher. Alright, let's review the figures. Although there is a 100 billion XRP maximum supply, only 50 to 55 billion are in use. Now, The amount of liquid supplies that is available decreases dramatically if JP Morgan does indeed store $20 billion in cold storage. Unlike Bitcoin, the token is intended for high-frequency liquidity use rather than long-term storage. As a result, the liquidity required to facilitate international transactions significantly reduces when XRP leaves the market. The cost of using the remaining XRP skyrockets if you try to run a global trading system on half its fuel. Price increases are inevitable if demand continues to rise, as we know it will due to growing asset tokenization, CBDCs, and real-time cross-border commerce. And to be honest, nobody is ready for this stage. Because XRP's rise isn't the only thing at stake, this is a complete conquest. One bank can affect which institutions have access if it holds this much XRP. They have the ability to charge for usage. They have the power to affect international liquidity corridors. In essence, they privatize the digital value transfer highway. The focus has shifted from decentralization. When one organization sets the regulations and collects the tolls, it turns into a regulated setting. In crypto, this type of control has never been implemented on this scale. For the first time, a legacy financial institution would control a decentralized network by purchasing the underlying fuel rather than creating something new. Do not misunderstand. To make it happen, JP Morgan has the means, the connections, and the legal clout. They are using one of the most advanced tactics in contemporary financial history, while the public is preoccupied with regulatory drama and meme coins. What's the scariest aspect, you know? It's functioning. The market is dormant, retail investors are still selling, and XRP is still trading below $1. JP Morgan is also quietly building up. They are relying on your ability to sell. They're wagering that you won't see. However, the data is finally coming to light. The patterns of whale wallets are being revealed. We're tracking down the cold storage channels, and there will be two groups of individuals when the truth is indisputable. For pennies on the dollar, those who held and those who gave their XRP to the world's largest bank. What comes next then? There will probably be a significant change in how institutions perceive XRP if these assertions are verified. It will be viewed as a valuable resource that is necessary for international finance rather than as a dangerous alternative currency. Its price will reflect institutional necessity rather than speculative hype, and people who own even little amounts will be in possession of what may turn out to be the most sought-after digital asset globally. However, only if they hold, only if they realize the magnitude of what's happening. And only if they fight the urge to sell early. This bull run isn't like the others. In a digital economy, this is a reorganization of value control. As you are aware, JP Morgan is aware that XRP's value is not its only strength. For this reason, they are currently relocating, wallets are expanding, and tokens are vanishing from circulation. This is the last message. History is being shown to you. This is a pivotal moment in digital finance, so it's not a drill just yet. XRP is being viewed as the next basic asset, much like gold was in the 1930s or oil in the early 20th century. This time, however, you're already inside and in possession of the asset, so you're not locked out. Choosing whether to give it to the giants or wait for the world to catch up is the only thing left to do. Please keep in mind that I am not a certified financial advisor. These videos only contain content that is meant to be entertaining. Before making any financial decisions, I always advise viewers to do their own research and speak with experts. Many thanks for listening. Please remember to hit the subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. To be the first to know when I post new stuff, make sure you have enabled the alerts as well. I can't wait to see you again in the